Pat Smith, Donna Rathbun, and Janet Kramer.
Hi, Janet.
Hello, it's good to hear your voice, Christine.
Hey.
So we have two new members of the board, Tom and Janet, and before we do the elections, I thought I'd just give you each a moment to tell us a little about yourselves.
Well, in past years, I was a member of the Board of Trustees of a homeless shelter organization in Cambridge, Mass. Called Shelter Incorporated. And recently I was a member of the Board of Trustees of the library here in Brattleboro. And in my earlier life, I've been a renter and a homeless person. So, and now I'm a landlord, so I know all views of people's housing situation, because I've lived them.
That's good.
I always thought that the secretary of HUD should be someone who has spent some time without a home. But it's always somebody wealthy who's never worried about where to sleep.
Me. Like Tom, I have been a landlord. I own a condo and rent the condo next to me. And I had the privilege of being a housing commissioner for 10 years, and then a 2 years break. And I find that as a clinical social worker, I'm going into Red Clover Commons and seeing people there and realizing how very much I appreciated the chance to help participate in that. Particularly, I'm interested in moving, being part of the Moving to Work program for the Housing Authority.
Okay. Great. So I thought we would have elections for the chair and vice chair. Tom was the chair, Chris Conley has been the vice chair. I thought if we were doing them, we should just do them again. So, can you hear me, Chris?
I'm hearing you.
Good. So, do I have any nominations for chair of the board?
I think experience would really be important to the chair. So I think maybe Janet.
I would be honored to accept that nomination.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Are there any other folks who want this illustrious position? All those in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
All right. Thank you. And for vice chair?
I nominate Pat.
Oh. Wait a minute. Pat had her hand up.
I was going to nominate Chris.
I'm going to say no for now because I don't know when I'll get back to a meeting.
That makes sense.
And, you know, it's just, I can't be, you know, although I hear a lot from some of our tenants that are in Pine Heights right now, I don't know when I'm going to get out of here. My doctor's being stubborn, so it's kind of difficult, you know, to do anything like that. So I'd rather not be me.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris, and thank you for serving as the vice chair.
Well, that was fine. It was well. I had been there.
Obviously, your heart is still here, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we figured out the phone. So,
Indeed.
Yeah,
So-
definitely.
the nomination of...
May I second that nomination?
All right.
Pat Smith?
All right. Any others? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Thank you.
Yes, come for yourself.
So Janet will be the chair and Pat will be the vice chair. And the executive director of the Housing Authority serves as the secretary. So I don't think we need to vote that again unless you feel compelled.
Do we have to elect you, or is it just?
We will have elections again at the annual meeting because we have to, and that's when you can elect me again if you so choose.
Okay, yeah.
We will stand
Yeah.
and appreciate it.
Just before you dash in, Janet, I hope you realize that what we have here are two packets. So you have, the top one is the packet for this month, and then the one behind is the information that the staff put together as if we were having a meeting in August. I didn't want to get them out of the swing of reporting even 1 month. And I thought that that would make it, we just need to keep it going. So that's what you have, and the agenda is for this meeting for this one.
So looking at the minutes that are in our August packet, the next part of the agenda is to review and approve minutes from the meeting of July 16th. And since I wasn't present, Pat and Donna and Christine are the ones who can look at those minutes and see if they can be approved.
All you have to do is add my name to September for the check writer. So I'd sign it.
Oh,
Is that what was decided? I saw your email, but, I mean, I can split the month too.
I've done it all already.
You want me to do the last half of the month? or-
You can have the next one.
That comes toward the end of our meeting, but I'll keep that in mind. I'm glad to know that.
That's one quarter, yeah. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
okay.
I second it.
Any further comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Minutes are accepted.
And 2 abstentions.
And 2 abstentions. Thank you.
Okay.
We have a resident. Have you something that you want to share with us?
I say it all the time, that I'm very appreciative that they got the TV working and it's all, there is somebody that knows how to correct it. That would be probably me, or because they have that remote and it has a lot of buttons on it, so sometimes it gets pushed. But I really find it, enjoyable living up there from Canal Street. There's a lot of traffic, a bus line, and just everything is included in my apartment. Heat and hot water, and my situation has really risen to the fact that I have more money to save now because of my rent dropping. And well, I have issues with things that I just address it as I live here. I tell the bus company things, but I guess they're not getting addressed. Like they got the new mover bus, and they got luggage racks, and if you stand up quickly, you can hit your head and all that. But no, I appreciate staying here.
I'm glad to know that. Well, we can't change things with the bus company. I hope you'll let them know that.
Yeah,
We can pass them on
Yeah.
right.
to the bus.
They just accepted it because the mover didn't want it, and the current needs another bus or something. But yeah, I don't know what they do. I tell them right at the meeting downtown that it could be later during the night because people get off work at 4 or 5, run until like 8 o'clock. But I don't see that happening. And a lot of people use the bus to get places. But
Well, obviously, the social services do the best they can to coordinate and
Yeah.
Sometimes they succeed and sometimes they don't. We move on to staff reports, the property portfolio and property managers. I'm assuming this is the yellow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I must admit, I want to go back to number of transfers into 1063 Western Avenue.
Mhm.
There were 5 apartments that were, there was a transfer.
Yeah. And I don't know whether those were,
Seems to have been several into number 304.
those are all from the wait list. W/L means wait list. And that 304 would just be, that's just the reporting error.
Okay.
That the computer reported 4 instead of 1. And actually, we reported it wrong twice. Okay, so,
Well, that's, it did surprise me that there
Yeah.
was that.
no,
Much
that should be
activity.
1.
Comments, Donna? Others?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes,
We have a lot of transfers from Melrose Terrace, and those aren't being, people aren't being brought into Melrose when the other people leave, is that correct?
Actually, we have 25 units at Melrose,
Right.
which we are allowed to, we have 25 units under our ACC, our contract with HUD, for occupancy at Melrose, and those we can continue to fill.
Okay, so we are.
And these transfers that you're looking at were transfers of people from Building 186, which we did not think was going to be torn down, and found out later that it is one of the 11 buildings to be removed. So we had 4 people there that all had to be transferred.
Okay, okay. No, I was just wondering if we were, I hate to put it this way, but emptying Melrose by attrition, and that's what I was curious about.
Not yet,
Okay,
but that will be done once we have a building up and we are looking at an occupancy date. Then we will let Melrose go by attrition.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question.
May I ask why they tear down the buildings? Are they just so old that, you know, the electric and plumbing, why they tear them down?
We're tearing them down because they're in the flood, right in the floodway.
Oh, yeah, oh, down here.
Yep.
Yeah, I talked about that, you know, like if you sold them off, you probably can't do it. No, you can't get insurance if the flood comes. They look like solid structures, but who knows when you're gonna get another flood, right?
Right.
Well, the federal government
We already
doesn't want
did that
to
once.
support people in floodways.
I just wanted to make a comment about the bulletin boards and the SASH newsletters.
Mhm.
I think they're great. I think they really do a good job. And in fact, I find them helpful personally, some of the little tips and things, so I think they should just be told that
Sure.
they're doing a good job.
That's
Yeah,
why it's
we have a
fascinating to
meeting
come
on,
back after 2 years away and really appreciate how well and how interesting the material is.
We had a meeting on Wednesday about chronic diseases, and it was pretty interesting.
Mhm.
Like 2 or 3 hours, they was on board, you know, informative, and, you know, a lot of people go on the rides to different places, so But I don't see too many people in the activity-wise coming in here, you know, but I hear bits and pieces of, we're gonna tile this floor, and, you know, that's fine, you know, it's like, I'm happy I'm just here, you know.
The approved write-offs in the amounts of $2,754.21 and $914.88.
Make a motion to approve those.
I'll second.
Second from Pat. Any information we need to know?
The usual, these are people that have left housing. We continue to attempt collection of this money, even though we write it off. We are, and I'll get to that soon, we are in the process of really cleaning up our tenants' accounts receivable, and this is a really important part of doing that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The property performance charts.
So you should have charts that look like this in somewhere. I'm afraid the order wasn't as good as it could have been, but we'll do that next time. Do you have that, Tom?
I may have rearranged.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
All right, so it looks like this.
I know I saw it.
There we go. Pat's got hers.
Yeah.
Near the bottom?
Yep.
Okay. So, if they're all done the same, the first page should say combined tenants accounts receivable. And it shows you that the goal is that red line. And the numbers on the side are the points that we get in our HUD evaluation. Tom would go through a pretty rigorous HUD evaluation every year of both public housing and then every other year Section 8. It's called a FAS score. We did not do well 2 years ago. We did okay. We were a standard performer, but tenants accounts receivable and our turnover and lease-up days were zeros. We didn't get any points for them, which means it wasn't good. And for you all that have watched the rent reports, you know that we've had very high, I don't know which way you put it, but our collections in certain properties have not been good. And we embarked about January of this year on a rental improvement program. And I think you can see the results of it in this one, because this is a combined total of all properties, but I actually made one, and I'll just pass it down here. It's pretty, it wasn't the greatest chart, but that's just of the two family developments, Moorcourt and Ledgewood, which tend to have very fluctuating and sometimes challenging rent collection issues. So this is really great.
Yes.
So I understand this, being way above the goal is bad and being at or below is good.
Yep,
So the FAS score, the lower the number, the better.
that's right. Yes, on this one.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then, sorry, Chris?
I just said fantastic.
Yes, they've done really quite well. On the next page, it's the opposite, Tom. We're looking at the number of days. So this is when an apartment becomes vacant. The first thing it goes into is called turnover, and that's maintenance, fixing up the apartment. And then there are lease-up days, which can be added to that, which are the additional days it took to actually lease the apartment.
So an apartment can be vacant, whether it needs work so much or not, for several months.
It shouldn't be,
It should be, because there's a waiting list.
because there's a waiting list and because we lose money.
Well,
Each
sure,
month?
I'm thinking as a landlord too, so.
Yeah, so we
so-
lose money, we have a waiting list, we should be turning over these apartments and getting them full.
But in practice, I've found that I almost always have to have a month without rent, just because to get someone moving out and moving in within 24 hours is pretty tough, because it doesn't leave you enough time really to clean the
Oh, yeah.
place, and so,
What this reflects is in that, so if somebody leaves on the 1st and we have the apartment rented by the last day of the same month, it's never vacant.
oh, okay.
So for us, it's a little, we do get that month.
So you don't lose income because that month it was occupied
That's
even
right.
for a short time. Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, so the goal here is, one, to make sure that our apartments are in fairly good shape when they're vacated. And the other is to make sure that the folks that are doing lease-up have a fairly good number of people that are all screened and ready to go. That's tricky because by law, after 6 months, we have to completely rescreen the family or the individual.
Oh, that makes sense.
So they sort of have to play around with those, and we don't want to get people's expectations up either, because we don't know when an apartment's necessarily going to come up. So on this one, what you want are low turnover and lease-up days, so you want a higher percentage. And as you can see, we've started to exceed that now, which is really great. So that's a combination of maintenance and property managers working together to get the thing.
But what I know is that's due to like, they're not out on the, like say, the end of this month. A lot of people have the right to like dispute what you're saying, and they just like, they don't move out because, like they get asked to go to court, and they don't really have an income just to move out. I mean, I've seen a lot of bad scenarios and a lot of people, but yeah, I can imagine if maintenance could just get in there in a 30-day period, it'd be like clean it down, paint the walls, check the heat, plumbing, and get it all, get the people. But then the people where you go and you screen them, they got a background check. I don't know how that goes, but it's like they got say a couple felonies and misdemeanors.
Well, our staff work pretty hard as they bring people in to help them understand what the guides, what the parameters are. I need to move on to setting a date.
Just
I'm
a
sorry,
quick
Tom.
question,
I can't see you.
because I'm a newbie.
Yeah.
Okay.
This second chart that shows several months at about 97% or higher. I don't know if this turnover and lease up. Anyway, with 97% occupancy, that 3% would be how many units?
Well, we now have 204.
204. Okay, I can do the arithmetic
Yeah.
from there.
So it would be.
204. Oh, okay.
percent.
Yeah. 6.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank
there you
you.
go.
Because I couldn't see you. I wasn't aware, so speak up, please. Okay. Set a date for October for community meeting on moving to work.
Oh, well, it's more to tell you that we have set a date, and the date is October. Oh, there, Chris has it. It's Tuesday, and I believe it's October 15th.
And what time?
5:30.
Okay,
And we are hoping to keep this to an hour.
okay. And where?
It will be at Red Clover.
Okay. A very nice community room there.
Yes.
Great.
And we will be sending out letters and information packets, and you all will be getting those ahead of the meeting.
And moving on to resident wellness services, family self-sufficiency, resident services coordinators, SASH coordinators. And we have, as Donna had noticed, some very attractive and useful information. As a matter of fact, at the first page of the Wellness and Services Monthly Board Report, there was a discussion around helping discuss how SEVCA allocates funds to help residents that are behind with their rent, which is a very nice synergy there.
Yes.
And the lunch at Ledwood Heights to celebrate the new smoking
Well,
policy.
Tom can tell you about it. He made it.
Yes, it was a pretty nice day to sit outside. I met some folks on the maintenance crew, and that was the first time I'd ever seen Ledgewood Heights up close, and I was impressed. I thought it was a very nice little neighborhood.
And the residents really like it, and Tom, they all took note that you were there. They were very happy.
I wanted to show up, at least show my face.
So,
I find here that a lot of them go over there, but with the winter month coming, you know, and I do smell smoke, but, you know, it's hard to place where it's coming from in my building, and with winter coming, usually there are like 3 or 4 people over there abide by what you say, and, you know, winter coming.
I know.
And the support and services at home, no, that's SASH, but I was thinking of the family self-sufficiency. The last page of this white form, with Lucy Tell.
So that program is at a very low point, and Lucy and Christine are working on marketing, and they will be going to a conference next month on family self-sufficiency. Lucy's making a lot of great connections with other workforce development folks, and we're going to really put a press on to get more people in.
Is there a minimum number that she must have to continue?
I think this is about as low as it should go.
I wouldn't want to see it go any
Yeah,
lower.
yeah, I don't, it's a good question, and I'll find out.
How do they do that? Like, I'm not, like, cutting, if you would have just charged, like me, like $300 a rent, based on my information input, right? It's like, wouldn't that generate a lot more money coming in? Or is it like the maintenance of all the buildings, you need people from the outside like HUD to give
What
you?
we're talking about is a program to help people reach out either for schooling or for work, and to build up an escrow, a savings account. And the difference between what they are earning and the rent, if I remember right. So I haven't lost it all.
No, you haven't, no, you haven't.
I saw that on the news where the college scholarship that they give out, they're having a hard time like recollecting it, you know, it's just.
No, college,
Yep.
yeah.
And very, very interesting information on Alzheimer's.
Yes.
So the education that's being done, which is great.
What is that?
The
Alzheimer's.
It is a brain disease that often is called dementia. It's one particular kind
You
of
forget
brain
things or
disease.
all that?
Excuse me?
You forget things?
Yes.
I see meds on TV for that, but I don't know, everything's a 1% better, you know, sometimes.
Well, it's one of those cases where a lot of people are afraid of it, but don't know very much about it. And so I'm pleased to see SASH doing more of that.
Mhm.
Let's see, if I can find the Housing Choice Voucher Program, Shelter Plus Care.
That was we only had a,
There was a report in August.
in August on that. David's been out, there hasn't been much change. We did apply for mainstream vouchers. We didn't get them. Burlington, of course, got them. Rutland got 14, and the Vermont State Housing Authority got a pile, and we didn't get them. So we're disappointed in that.
Yes.
And so everything chugs along very well in David's programs.
The Shelter Plus Care is something that I had worked with before.
Mhm.
And I'm very pleased to see that there are 30 subsidies out for that. Shelter Plus Care being people with mental illness who have been homeless. And this is the kind of housing first program that makes such a difference in recovery. And review and approve the fair market rent to be effective in the 1st of February 2019.
First of January.
Practice say January. Practice say 2019.
So you should have gotten this, which is the schedule. Tom was a Section 8 landlord for a while, so he knows.
Yes, and I do consult the HUD fair market rent tables every year. And I have a question I'm sure everyone's thinking of. When the FMRs go down,
Mhm.
they have, suppose the 2017 rent was above the total rent is now more than the FMR, whereas before it might have been under.
So-
Does the tenant have to pay more? Does the rent have to come down?
All good questions. You can see what we've done, because our 2017 rents are higher than the ones that HUD, our 2018 payment standards are higher than the ones that HUD has published for Wyndham County
Right.
for next year. You are allowed to go, as a housing authority, you can go up to 110% of the HUD FMR, and you can go 90% below the HUD published FMR. What we have chosen to do is to go up to 109%, so that we can keep our rents exactly where they were last year.
Okay, so nobody gets hurt, not
Right.
the housing authority, not the tenants.
Right. The FMRs are really, they just swing horribly. And when they swing too much, they had gone down and gone down and gone down, so we had to chase them for a little bit. You can't lower the tenant's rent until the second annual that you do for them after you put them down, after you lower the FMRs. Trust me, it's a nightmare.
Oh, I
So-
can believe it.
So in that scenario, you've got a whole year where they may have gone up again, something else may have happened, and then you've now got them lowered. So we had lowered them. By the time we got through all 145 voucher holders, we found that our rents were really too low. They were too low for the community, and people were having a hard time finding apartments, and they were paying too much. We did an analysis, and we don't like to see people pay more than 40%. And we had people up to 50% of their income paying towards rent. So last year, we hiked them up, and the FMRs went up, and we said, great, let's go up, this is what we need. And it worked. I mean, people have been able to find apartments. The amount of income people are paying for their apartment has gone down into the 30 to 40%, so it's where it should be. And then these come out this year, and they're all really low again. And we're not going to do that. So
Well,
we just leave it on 109%.
Yeah, I guess you kind of have to, but having followed the FMRs for 18 years, they changed the way that they calculated about 5 years ago, and that had a lowering effect across the board.
Right.
They used to have a modest gain every single year, and then suddenly it dropped, and it's just getting, well, it's not getting back to where it was. But,
How does that work? Is it like, if I get an increase in my social security check, let's say by 3%, right? Does, this like, your rent going down and up, like I tell you I'm getting like $1,200 a month, and then they just base that. They must know like how to figure it out, right?
Right.
Like who's, like rents out there. My apartment alone, if I got done on a straight rate, it's probably $700, and I think that would be high for that, but still, I just, like.
Well, you're in the public housing program, so it's different than this program that we're talking about.
So we're talking about the people who are renting in the community using Section 8 vouchers, am I correct on
Yes.
that? So people are looking for their own apartments, knowing they're going to be subsidized to a certain point by the fair market rent.
So is it the landlords that don't like the Section 8s and they don't like want to let them move in for, like, let's say it's $800 and, they're only going to pay like $400 for a 1-bedroom or?
Well, I would correct you, because in Brattleboro, our landlords are very supportive of Section 8 and take Section 8 and really participate with many of the social service programs with folks that need case management and other things. So this community is very supportive of the Section 8 program and takes the voucher.
yes, and landlords do like the Section 8 program because the Section 8 payments are like clockwork. They are on time, on the day that they're due, and it is absolutely reliable. And, even if the landlord has to wait a few days for the tenant's portion, usually the Section 8 payment gets you through the first of the month's obligations. So landlords do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Makes a difference. Do I hear a motion to adopt the proposed 2019 fair market rents?
Do we have a
On this,
choice?
do we have,
Really?
You don't have to accept them. These are our recommendations. If you'd like us to go back and do something else, we're done.
But once we approve it, then we can't complain about it.
Make a motion.
Okay.
Thank you. Pat, did you say it?
Chris, any comments?
No.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No? Okay, the fair market rents are 109% of the HUD's fair market rent payment standards. Starting with $563 for a single room only, $866 for 1 bedroom, $1,088 for 2 bedrooms. agenda page over, work session for old, new, and other business. Discuss annual meeting will be held on November 19th at noon at Brattleboro Commons. Do we have a speaker?
We don't have a speaker, but the supportive services staff is putting together a presentation from our residents about how positive they feel about their neighborhood. So I think that would be really great.
It's our turn to award the Tom Young Housing Leadership Award. And we alternate with the Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust on that.
And
Who did we nominate last time? We nominated someone.
gave it to Marshall.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
Marshall, okay.
I think the last was we gave it to Marshall. I would have to find out from Wyndham Windsor. I think they gave it to somebody in Bellows Falls. I'm not sure.
You know, I was wondering, I couldn't remember whether we had nominated Marshall or not.
Yeah.
That's why I asked
No, we
you.
had given it to Marshall. And I did get a thought today, which I will email to you.
Okay.
Which I thought was, we're going to explore it, but this is given out to somebody that has bettered the lives of people living in public and affordable housing and has been fairly consistently committed to that work. So if you have suggestions, we'll put it on the agenda for October. And finally, something I think by then.
And the BHOI, Brattleboro Housing Opportunity, Inc.
Yes. So, very exciting. It had lapsed, it had lost its IRS standing, and has now been reapproved by the IRS. Donna is on the board.
That's right.
Pam?
Are there
I think
you?
that was Pat.
It's Pat.
I'm not supposed to have done anything.
Pat.
I was like, what is that?
It's Pat.
It's gonna be hard.
So I wanted to put this on the agenda to put it in front of you. We are going, Jeanette White and I have been working on this. We're going to write really a new mission statement for the organization. It was oriented more to being the nonprofit we use for development. We don't need it to do that. So what we'd like to do is have it very focused on supporting our supportive services and fundraising and publicizing and really being the entity that goes out and supports that. So
That would be particularly useful because we have relied on government grants for things like SASH. And we were pioneers on that, but government grants have been tending to diminish, if not more. So this would be just great.
yeah.
Whether it's Donna or Pat, both.
I wrote Donna and I think it's Pat.
But you brought up grants. I read actually last night about a new grant that the government, that Bernie Sanders got for us, that Vermont was approved for it again. And if I can find my phone, I don't know where it has it. But yeah, it was I think it's a community grant or something like that.
We'll look it up.
Okay. And I think it's one of the same things we used when we built Red Clover, if I'm correct. I'm not sure. But it's open to anyone.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think we can track it down.
Okay.
Great, thank you,
If
Chris.
I find it afterwards, I'll email you.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Today's reformer.
Oh, today's, I didn't see it.
I think it was on the either the last page of the first section or the second section.
All right, I will do that. I'll look it up.
Okay.
Great.
Financial review. And I must say that I am delighted at the first quarter financial notes.
Yeah, I thought
They're very helpful.
those might be more interesting for some of you than looking at a bunch of numbers, which Donna, I know, really loves. So things are in pretty good shape as we get ready to head into winter.
On the fourth page, the around property management, the comments of much lower maintenance income than budgeted. Is there an explanation for that?
That is in the Richards Building and Red Clover, and the issue there is that we are still working on perfecting the use of the maintenance tablets so that they will completely charge their time and materials to the appropriate place. And that is a work in progress.
Any other comments, questions?
I did, I'm working with one hand here, so bear with me.
Okay, sure.
To find out, somebody just came in and put my dinner down, so I got everything all over the bed.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, got a little bit confusing here. Yeah, the utilities, if I can find that again. Utilities and water sewer, worse than budgeted. Is that, and excuse me if I'm not up to a lot of these things right now, but did the utilities rates go up, water and sewer? As of June 30th?
I'm trying to think if they, do you?
What page do you think is, oh, here we go, in the front page.
Front page.
Yeah, front page, under expenses, and
Yeah.
they're kind of, yeah, I'm just wondering if I seem to remember something about them raising the utilities rate, but I wasn't sure when that was or if it passed or anything.
I actually,
I don't know if you can answer that, so I
Yeah.
think we'll just leave it out there that we may have the same thing the entire year. We might be worse than budgeted if they could go up.
right. And I'm trying to think of my own water bill, and if it went up, it didn't go up a lot.
Yeah.
We had a really serious water problem at Melrose, and we had a pipe in the ground that broke, and we didn't know it. Nothing happened above ground, and the only way we caught it was that the water department called us and said, "You're using a huge amount of water at Melrose." They had cycled through and looked at it, and it was great that they did that because it was. It took us about 3 weeks to find it.
And they have done that for me in the condo that I rent, where the excess water usage and change in water usage triggered a call, and it was a broken toilet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
they've done that for me too.
great.
So that, I don't know, Chris, but that could be a contributor there.
Right, it's definitely.
I'll find out.
Okay. And the green is the monthly check listing. Excuse me?
We have changes on that too, John,
Okay.
August and September.
Okay. So the voucher management system remote audit,
Yes.
7 areas of concern.
Mhm. So we had it's called a remote audit by the Financial Management Center of HUD. And that meant shipping over to them a great many documents. They came to see us after the audit, which was very nice, because they were going to do the summary by telephone, and we explained to them that Richard really wouldn't be able to participate.
Of course.
So the fellow came out from Albany, which was great. I mean, that was great. The fact that they had 7 concerns was not. And Chris, you should have gotten a copy of their letter to us.
I did.
So they had 7 areas of concern. I would say that the concerns really came down to we have not been using our computer system to validate our numbers to the extent that we should be. And we had instances where the summary page from the computer printout was different than the detail page. And we didn't go after the computer vendor and get that fixed. So there were these 7 areas where the validated information was not the same as the information we put in. We were using information derived more from our general ledger than from 10-mast vouchers, the voucher module in 10-mast. And that was not acceptable to HUD. So we have corrected all of the records. This was for the year 2017. We today filed all the corrections that they had requested that we filed. We filed them to match the validated numbers that they have. And we've put in place 3 or 4 different things. One, David DeAngelis will now go through the voucher management submission before it's done with Richard to make sure that everything looks good to him. They will very aggressively go after the computer company to fix those things that need to be fixed. We will be also discussing with the computer company where we might be entering data in the wrong place for their system to pick it up and deliver it in the right line under this fairly complicated recording system. So we need to know from 10-mast, well, where do they need to be putting it? Because we're getting zeros, and you know, we know from other reports that it's not a 0. So we've got some learning to do, and a lot of discussion with the computer software company to really get very clear about how where data should be put in. Once we've got that all cleared up and we've got the data clean, then we need to make sure that we are teaching every user of that system exactly what they need to be doing in order for it to generate the information that it should be. So there's a lot of work there that will need to be done. I've told Richard that it has to be done by no later than the end of December. I fully expect all of this to be resolved, and I expect him to use only the 10-mast system, and that means they've got to get that thing working if it isn't. So.
And the 10-mast system is one prescribed by HUD?
No, it's the one that we have chosen to use. It's a good system. It's it's the system used by many, if not a majority, of the moving to work agencies. It's now bought out a couple other, one nonprofit and another public housing program. So it's really becoming the giant in the marketplace, which is okay. We just need to you know, really be more assertive about getting things fixed. If it's their program, I want them to fix it. If it's us not knowing where to put it, then our people really need to train up. And they have a lot of good training. So they just need to train up.
How often are these audits done?
Not very often. I think we had one the whole time that Mary was with us, which was 12 years. And I think given that we had this one with these results, they'll come back and they'll audit us next year.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they will audit us again.
Yeah.
But then they probably won't look at us for a while.
Right, once you meet the expectations.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Chris, I don't know if you have any questions?
No, not at all,
Okay.
not at all.
I would say it wasn't horrible, but it was not, it certainly did not meet my expectations for performance.
The next item of business, check signing. And Pat has done July, and Donna had done August, and Pat's back in September. So Tom, you and I are probably needing to step up to sign checks. The routine is it Thursday or Friday these days?
Whatever, you work out what.
You work it out with,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, Thursday or Friday,
All right.
but end of the week.
I say every week.
And-
No.
For the month.
For the
yeah.
month.
Oh, once a month.
No, every week for
Every
that
week
month.
for that
Yeah,
month, yes.
yeah.
Sure.
And we'll need to get new cards signed.
Yes,
That was
new
the question.
signature cards.
Yep, yes. So Richard will be contacting you all about that.
Good. Jeannie has already been in touch with me around the computer.
Yes, and I
It's
know,
October still.
So-
Janet, please call Jeannie about the computer system.
Thank you. All right.
So, Janet, are you available for October?
Yes.
All right.
I may need to call for some backup. But this is still September, and I'm going on away. My daughter's on the 21st, so Janet will be October.
Okay.
And let us move into November. Tom, are you willing to sign up in November?
Yes, I'm willing. I may be having knee surgery sometime, I don't know when. So I think we should probably have a backup check signer.
I can back that up.
Okay.
But I will do November if I can walk.
Okay, great, thank you.
One day at a time?
I'm hoping to have them both done at the same time, because that would be only one patient deductible instead of two. And that's a week's vacation right there, so I can't think about those
It's
things.
going to be more than a week.
Yeah.
On the basis of my experience.
Well, I don't know what month it's going to be. It might
Okay.
not even happen.
Okay, well, great, thank you very much, and I'll get Richard to get it.
Do you want a discussion before the large projects in progress on the draft work schedules?
Yes, that would be great.
Because that wasn't on the agenda.
No, it was not, I included it. Excuse me, didn't get it on the agenda. This is a working from home policy. The staff has seen it. And we actually had somebody who had to work at home, and they used our chart, and it worked out quite
Very
well.
good.
So we would like to add this to the personnel rules. And I can tell you that we have just a couple of people that work from home. One, maybe once or twice, 3 times a month at the most, but she has young kids, and this enables her, and she does do a lot of work. Everybody who works at home does a lot of work at home. So it's good to have the policy, and people have, when they say they're working at home, they're working at home.
You can work in your pajamas.
You can work in your bunny slippers if
Do we need to adopt this?
I would ask that you do, so we can put in personnel rules.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt this.
Thank you.
I'll second.
So the only thing we're changing on this is there are changes to the working at home.
We're adding that to the personnel rules.
Okay, but everything else is on this little packet, is the same as it has been in the personnel manual.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
This is just how it would be inserted into the personnel rules. And then the work at home record is just attached so that you can see what we'll be using for
No, I did,
that.
I thought it was I thought it was very good. And this she reminded me when I worked in legal and I had to account for every minute of the day.
Yes. So are you ready for a vote? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, no? It's carried. That's
Thank you
added
very
to the
much.
personnel. The fiscal 19 appropriations, I think this is just,
Oh, and they were just some reading materials, and I sent you a link to a really interesting article in the
Very
New York Times that's
Times Magazine.
really,
Yesterday.
really speaks to a lot of our residents are very, very much in the same position as the people profiled in that article.
What intrigued me, if I can speak just briefly about it, is that we are supporting and enabling, this woman in the article was doing home care. So it's the circular path of our support for her housing enables somebody ill at home to get the services, and it comes back. The more she is paid, the easier her life is, but that increases medical costs.
Right. And that she was working as a home health aide. Boy, that's right up the alley. You know, that is a very common LNA, home health
Yes.
aide, very common position for working families to have. Also, lower paying service jobs. And, you know, there's still one flat tire away from, disaster. And they're working,
Yes.
you know. So people say, go to work, get a job. They are.
I can tell you right now, there is a shortage of LNAs in this community.
Absolutely.
So I mean, if like with Lucy, if she's it's terrible. They're paying bonuses to hire people because they can't get people. And so I mean, if Lucy is working with people and anyone is interested, I mean, they have a course at Vermont Tech. That people, if there is a way of training or something like that, that is the perfect place to go right now in Brattleboro.
That's great. I'll pass that on to Lucy. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, I know from experience.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I mean, we have RNs coming in doing LNA work, because there's just not enough LNAs around.
Oh dear. And the last part of our package was the impact in the Vermont Supportive Services at Home, or SASH,
Oh, yes.
on healthcare expenditures.
This is the most recent report on SASH, and we're all very happy to say that it continues to show actual dollar savings.
Yes.
In Medicare program.
I remember when we first had the pioneer or pilot SASH program, we were also looking at how it helped diminish the number of people who were going to the hospital from our housing developments. So yes, they may eventually go into nursing homes, but it delayed that whole process a great deal.
Well, and I have always, I believe that for our residents as they age, depending on how that goes, moving to a facility is the right next step. And to the extent that SASH helps that transition happen, great.
Yes.
It's very appropriate. So
The other thing I can tell you from recent experience, the reason I'm not home right right now is because of the lack, I would have had to have daily nursing, they would have to change my dressing every day. And I couldn't go home because that's impossible right now.
Yeah.
They don't have enough RNs and in visiting nurses. So that there was no way I was allowed to go home because I could not get my dressing changed daily.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm just thinking of stash. I mean,
Yeah.
having somebody there be responsible is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it's a good program, and I'm very glad that we're a part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Moving on to number 6, large projects in progress, and a RAD application.
So I feel like these are all plates that are up in the air, and I just wait for, I hope they don't all fall at once, and I hope they, when they do, they're positive.
Yes.
RAD is the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program. This would move our public housing developments into project-based Section 8s. Rents would stay the same. We would get out from under most of the public housing rules, but most importantly, this would remove HUD from our deeds. And thus, we would be able to have a lot more ability to redevelop our properties. That's the great thing about RAD. The application is in, and we're waiting, we hope, a positive indication would be that they would assign us basically an underwriter that would work with us in putting together all the details. The MTW is moving to work, and we're awaiting a HUD issuance of a notice. They were supposed to put the notice out in April, and now we're hearing it might be November. Depending on what that notice says, we will or will not apply. But we are in a position to apply, and I think would be a great candidate as a small housing authority.
And do I remember that we are in a position to apply because the work was done to improve the financial situation, including rent payments and including all of the turnaround. You became a high-performing
Right. Yeah.
agency.
For both of these programs, they don't require it, but MTW was at first going to require it, and RAD, it's not a requirement, but they look first to see what's your last score. Are you a high-performing housing authority, especially if you're a small one? So yes, that was substantial. On the pre-disaster mitigation award, we're still waiting for that. We now have our entire congressional delegation in Washington working on the FEMA Region 1 folks to get this thing going. And I have a message into our emergency management person in Montpelier, and when she gets back, I hope to hear from her. But we'd like to be able to take the first 4 buildings down this year. So we'll see. We are progressing on the design for Red Clover 2, which will be a wing attached via sky bridge to the existing building. The wing will be over the surface parking that's in the back, and it will have 20 units of housing. We are going to the Development Review Board in October with pretty complete plans for them to look at and approve. So that is moving along.
Remembering, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to ask, that sky bridge is still going to be covered, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it has to be covered. Yeah.
Remembering it was important for commissioners to attend board meetings when we were proposing and supporting changes. Would it be important for us to be at the Development Review Board?
It never hurts.
Okay.
I will make sure that you know
Thank you.
exactly what day it is.
So why didn't they put the bridge on when they built the project, just money-wise?
No, we're adding some more units
Yeah, I
of
know,
housing
but-
there.
Or
So
why
that-
not do it when the development was going on, just a money thing?
No, we.
Well, when we built Red Clover, we originally thought that the second phase would be on a lot somewhere else in town.
Okay,
And it never dawned on us that we would even think to put a building where we're gonna put it.
yeah, I know the site.
But we could not find any land in town that was zoned properly, met the criteria that we need for building. So our development partner and our architect happened to be looking at the plans and said, well, wait a minute, why don't we put it there?
Like
So-
you have the West Pratt Development Council too, and that land that's down by the Vermont Deli, that big green lot on the right. Oh, it's just like, right on the right, as you can turn off to the highway on the left side. There's like a big lot there.
Oh, yes, we've looked at that lot and it doesn't it doesn't work for us.
Oh,
Trust me, we have looked at virtually every parcel of property in town. We spent
What
3
about-
years looking at land.
what about up by Dollar General on the right side?
Looked. All floodway, by the way,
I bet.
all along there, so.
So in their last,
Going
go,
to the same thing as we have at Melrose.
yes,
Yes, we're not doing that again.
demolition approval application.
It is still with the Special Application Center, and I've written them and didn't hear anything. I should have on here, but I don't. This Wednesday, our portfolio specialist from Boston is coming to audit us. We're really treating it as a visit so that she can get to know everybody, because they're very important in all of these things. We need them to know not just who I am, but who the staff is. So she's coming out. I'm going to talk to her about trying to get this moved along with the Special Application Center. You don't want to push them too much because they're, So I will be talking to her.
Does the fire department ever do the fire in one of the buildings, the controlled fire that they were going to, the exercises they were going to do there?
No, they did not do a controlled fire, but the Vermont State Police have done, I think, a couple of training exercises in the buildings, and Jack participated in one and had a lot of fun.
I bet you did.
So,
Has there been any,
Play a bad guy.
yeah.
has there been any concern about vandalism or inappropriate use of the vacant buildings?
Yes, there is. I was trading phone calls with my insurance agent today about that. So far, so long as we keep them closed up and all that, and because we have people here, it is not presented as itself as a problem. When winter comes, we're actually better off because we don't snowplow around the buildings, and if anybody were to go in them, we would see the tracks.
Very evident, yes.
But we have enough people in and around all of those buildings that we haven't had any issues as of yet.
That's the end of the agenda. Any additional things, new and old, other business to bring up?
I have only the lovely audit to hand out to all of you. And if you wish, we can put it on the agenda for next month, or you can just read it avidly. Chris will send you yours, because it's just the best reading. It's by and large a very clean audit. There were 3 areas that we do need to make some changes in. They've all been taken care of. There were no findings or anything like that. Just.
So this is separate from the other audit that you were talking about?
Yes, this is our financial. We are being audited so many times this year. It's unbelievable. So we had the voucher audit, we had our financial audit, now we're having our HUD public housing audit. It's, I don't know why, all of a sudden, we're just getting a lot of audits. I don't know.
Well, it's going to make you look good too.
I guess.
That's a good point.
If you can get to the point where no formal reply is required, then that's a compliment.
Yes, and the financial audit was good. There were 3 areas of just, and they were pretty standard, a distribution of how we distribute our central cost pool, interprogram balances, and a very helpful recommendation on what's called the FDS. So we have to take all of, yeah, I know. We have to take all of our financial data, which is set up under public accounting, fund accounting, and we have to completely transform it into this insane federal system for HUD called the FDS, and it's just makes you crazy.
It wouldn't be worthwhile to think about getting a converter program that would take your data and, so
Don't exist. Usually what people do is they hire an accountant who comes in and does it. We had done that, and then when Richard came, he was willing to tackle it. So what he did this last year was he had a contract with an accountant to help him through it. And the only recommendation that our auditors made was, next year, why don't you go ahead and do it, and then have this accountant take a look at it before it's filed. And it was just a very positive recommendation. But Richard did a really, really good job of translating normal fund accounting into this really horrific system.
I think it's like a classification of like all those audits, right? It's like, they're just like making sure that if, when they audit you, there's something, if there's an error, they can catch it quickly to make things in a good standard.
That's right.
There are people that do computer, like come in and do computer, like knowledge of a business, and then they tell the business how they can do it better, you know. I'm amazed that sitting in on the meeting I'd rather go back to just collect the rent and do the maintenance and heck with everything else, right?
Yeah. All right, so that's it.
There being no further business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I
Okay.
Great.
And I hope, Chris, that you improve enough so that we'll see you here at a meeting. It's great to have you at least there by phone.
Yeah.